Hey everybody, it is alenajingle, and today I'm wanting to talk to you guys about my top name combinations. So I made a video on this channel about that topic, I think about 3 or 4 years ago, and my names have changed a ton since then. And I did a video with my best friend Amelia on her channel. Her channel is called Everything Baby Names. I think in May of this year, and my names have changed a ton already since then. So for this video, I'm actually going to be talking about just my top 4 girl combinations and my top 4 boy combinations. I usually include my own children's names in this as well, but I've already talked about them so much that I think I'm going to leave their names out for this video, and I will just link you guys to a couple of videos where I have talked about their names in the comments below. And for those who haven't seen any of my videos, my children are Brenna Ruth, who is 4, Theron Jude, who is 2, Hugh Clinton, who is 22 months, and Katura Violet, who is 13 months. I'm going to be talking about my girl combinations first, and my number 1 girl combination right now is Willa Marguerite. So I'm really excited about my names and my top combinations right now because as time goes on and our combinations are changing, they're getting more and more meaningful to us. And after having named 4 children, I'm finding that it's more and more important to me to have names that are super meaningful aside from just I love the sound, I love the meaning. You know, it has to have several aspects to it that are important to me. Willa is a name I have loved for several years. It's been in and out of my top combinations, usually as a middle name. However, my husband Rodney has always really liked this name. And the only reason it wasn't as a first name is because I never really found a middle name that I loved with it. And then this year, my great-grandma, who was just the most incredible person I've ever known in my life, passed away. And her name was Audra Pearl, and she went by Audrey. And Audrey doesn't work with my last name, and family members have already used her first and middle name on their own children. So I wasn't sure how to find a way to honor her. And recently I found out that Rodney had a great-grandma whose name was Marguerite, and that he had another great-grandma whose middle name was Pearl. And Marguerite means pearl. So in using Marguerite as a middle name, I can honor my amazing great-grandma that passed away this year, and it's also a family name doubly for Rodney on his side. Willa is a German name that comes from the German word that means will or desire, so very good meaning there. And Willa is actually ranked at 549 in the top 1,000 girl names right now, and it is rising. So I do hope I'm able to use this name before it enters the top 100 girl names, if that ever does happen. Right now it's not too popular for my taste at all, and I just absolutely adore this name. And I kind of think if we were to name a daughter Willa Marguerite, that we would call her Whim or Whimsy. As a nickname. My number 2 girl combination is, I think, the only one that has stayed the same in the last 3 or 4 years, and that is Hope Lenora. I absolutely adore this name. I do hope to use it very much. So Hope was a name I always liked, but I thought it was popular, and then it's actually not popular. I realized that like 2 or 3 years ago, and I was really excited to see that it was only in the 200s in popularity, and right now it's ranked at 231, which again is not too popular for my tastes. Obviously, Hope is a good virtue and just idea for anybody, no matter what, and it's really meaningful for me because of I'm a Christian, and you know, the hope that God has given us with his promises and such. And Lenora is a variant of my husband's grandma Nora Lee's name, and it also has the same meaning as my name. Lenora means shining light. My number 3 girl's name is Talitha Fern. Neither of these names are in the top 1,000 right now, so they're both very uncommon. I've had this combination for a couple of years, I think, in my top combos. Talitha is an Aramaic name that means little girl, and I absolutely love the biblical story with this name because Jesus is called to a family that is mourning the death of their little girl, and he goes up to her and says in Aramaic, Talitha Kumi, which means little girl rise, and she raises from the dead. He brings the little girl back to life, and that's amazing. And so, of course, when he calls her Talitha, then he's calling her little girl, which I find very sweet. Fern, I really, really, really love the Charlotte's Web association with that. And it is very meaningful for me as well because my husband's grandpa was named Vern, and so that can be a little nod at him. I think if we were to have a little girl called Talitha, we would call her Tally as a nickname. And my number 4 girl combination right now, I absolutely adore, but I'm afraid we won't ever use it, which is why it's not all the way down at number 4, and that is June Aletta. June, I think, is really sweet, and I do tend to love most month names. And my husband, this is probably his favorite name out of all these. Aletta, I have loved for years, and I think it just has this soft, flowy, beautiful sound, and it means winged. It's just a beautiful picture that comes to mind with the name Aletta. My problem with this name is that my son is named Theron Jude, and I do use his middle name a lot, and I'm afraid if we have a daughter called June that might get confusing. And since I do use my kids' middle names a lot, her middle name Aletta is very close to my own name, Elena. So that is why it's all the way down at number 4. That being said, I still adore this name. I'm afraid it will get replaced over time, but for now, it's definitely in our top combinations. June is currently ranked at 317 in the top 1,000 girl names in the U.S., but Aletta is not, and I don't think it ever has been either. I adore that name so much. If I were to ever use this as a first name, which I definitely can't see myself doing since it's so close to my own name, but we would use Letty as a nickname for that. On to my top 4 boy combinations. My number 1 boy name right now is Gilbert Thaddeus. Gilbert is so meaningful for me. This was one of my great-great-grandpa's middle names, and it was the name of one of Rodney's great-great-uncles. This name I would adore no matter what because I am obsessed with the Anne of Green Gables books, and of course Gilbert Blythe is one of the main characters from those books, and he's absolutely wonderful. I also really like the meaning. It means bright promise. I love that so much. I do love basically every nickname for this name as well. I like the classic Gil. I think Gilby would be really sweet on a baby. I think Gib is cool and spunky, and even just Bert. I'm a huge Mary Poppins fan, and so I really am into Bert as a nickname as well. And the middle name Thaddeus is super meaningful for us. Number 1, because it's biblical. It was the name of one of the apostles, and it means heart or true heart in Aramaic, which is just wonderful. But the real reason, besides that I've always liked this name, that we would like to use Thaddeus is because my husband's best friend, who is also his first cousin, is named Thaddeus. He goes by the nickname Tad. And for the longest time, I always told my husband, I wish your cousin's name wasn't Thaddeus because I want to use Thaddeus so badly. And we realized sometime this year that when you use the name of someone you're close to, why do you use it? You use it to honor them. And Tad is his best friend, and it's somebody that I would totally love to name a child after. So if we do have a little boy, his name will likely be Gilbert Thaddeus, which I just absolutely adore. And Gilbert and Thaddeus are both in the top 1,000 right now. Gilbert is ranked at 893, and Thaddeus is ranked at 732. My number 2 boy name right now is Arlington Jerome. This was Arlington Jasper up until recently. But Jasper is a name that my husband tends to fall in and out of love with, and also it is a name that some of our family members have said they liked, and so we thought it'd be a good idea to find a replacement, at least for the time being. Jerome is one of those names that I've always liked, but I never really thought much of, and then I realized recently that the man who translated the Bible into Latin, therefore helping spread the Bible, was named Jerome. And even better, the name Jerome means sacred name, which is just amazing for a name lover, of course. Arlington, as rare as it is insanely meaningful for me and my husband. We both really love this country song called Arlington that is just absolutely beautiful and just gives me goosebumps every time I hear it. And one of the first times I heard that song, I told my husband, Arlington would make a cool name. And he was like, yeah, kind of cool. And shortly afterward, I realized that Arlington is almost a family name for me because my grandma on my dad's side, her middle name is Arlene, and then her own mom's first name was Arlene. And so if we were to use the name Arlington, it could be after both of those relatives of mine. Also, I watched the movie Gone with the Wind recently, and I found out that the actor who plays Scarlett's first husband in that movie is named Arlington, which is amazing to me because I've never ever seen Arlington used as a first name before. Jerome is in the top 1,000 boy names now at 807, but it's going down in popularity, and I don't think Arlington's ever been ranked in the top 1,000 boy names in the US. If we were to use Arlington, we would probably call him Art as a nickname. My number 3 boy combination right now is the same as it's been for a few years, and that's Shasta Barnabas. Oh, this name is just very musical to me. I absolutely adore it. So Shasta means handsome, which is of course wonderful. And it's meaningful for me and my husband because we both really adore the Chronicles of Narnia book series. Those books easily rival the Anne of Green Gables books for me as far as my favorite book series goes. And Shasta is the main character from my favorite of those books, and I think it's my husband's favorite as well. Barnabas means son of encouragement. I absolutely love that meaning, and the biblical Barnabas was just absolutely incredible. My husband is afraid that if we were to name a son Barnabas as a first name, that he would get called Barney, which he doesn't like, which is understandable. So that's why we just keep it in the middle name spot. Shasta Barnabas never quite goes to the top of our list because sometimes my husband is unsure about it because it's a very different name. That being said, I could absolutely name a son Shasta Barnabas in a heartbeat. I think it's just absolutely magical and amazing. And my number 4 boy combination right now is definitely my newest one, and that is Ibzan Jedediah. Ibzan is one of those names that I had passed by many times in the Bible and never really given it any thought. And recently this year, we were studying the book of Judges in the Old Testament at church. And I thought, hey, I should take a look at some of these judges' names because I have come to know a little bit a woman who has a son with a middle name Ehud, which is one of the judges' names, and I would have never thought of using that as a name. And as we were going through them, the name Ibzan caught my eye, and I just wrote it down, and I was saying it over and over again, looking at it, and I'm like, I love this name. And I looked it up, and Ibzan means brightness or whiteness, which I find very fascinating, especially because my name means bright, shining light. And Ibzan is mentioned just very briefly in the Bible. He's named as a judge that had 16 sons and brought in 16 wives as 16 daughters, which I found very, very sweet. Something I absolutely adore about the name Ibzan is that there aren't very many I names in general, and I've never had a boy I name that I absolutely felt like I had to use. Most letters of the alphabet, there's a name that I love so much that I wish I could use it no matter what. And I do like a lot of I names, but not to that extent. But Ibzan definitely fits that category for me, and I've never had that happen before with an I name for a boy. Jedediah is one of those names I've always known, of course, but I've never really thought anything of. And out of the blue recently, sometime this year, I'm like, what does Jedediah mean? And I Googled it, and Jedediah means loved by the Lord. And I thought, how on earth did I not know that? And so I looked up Jedediah in the Bible, and I have no clue how I didn't realize this. But when King Solomon is born, the prophet Nathan tells David, I'm going to call him Jedediah because he is loved by the Lord. And I think that is like the most insanely beautiful association with the name Jedediah ever. I do love the idea of the nickname Jedi for it, but my husband doesn't like it quite enough to use as a first name. I think it's absolutely perfect in the middle name spot and really unexpected. And I really like this combination because they're both biblical names, and none of our boy combos have the first and middle both biblical names until now with this one, which is very exciting for me. So those are my top combinations right now. Please let me know what you think of them and what your top